I don't know why it is whenever I'm doing a project and midway through I realize, oh, I probably should remove that. Hello and welcome back to my project SUV, which is my 2001 Nissan Pathfinder. And if you missed the latest video where I tried my first ever attempt at soda blasting and using glass beads to remove rust, be sure to check that out in the info card above. And in this video, I'm going to try and remove the rest of the rust on the wheel arches and get some paint laid down, and then also hopefully get into some undercoating before the cold weather sets in. With the wheel arches, especially this one here on the front fender flare, you can see there's quite a bit of rust, actually, more where the clips were in place here to hold in the flare, and I've since removed those, so I'm gonna have to sand it down. But you're probably wondering, how am I gonna go about painting? What am I gonna do there? And I thought about it, and unfortunately I am gonna have to use some of the factory paint color for the bottom where the rocker is, because that is kind of where the rust had expanded to past the fender flare. I've got the front all sanded down, and I'm actually going to work on the back wheel arches, and this one in particular, which is on the rear passenger side, which is the rear right side. This is horrible. Like, look at this. It is just almost all gone. It's disintegrated to the point of where it's, yeah, I don't even know what to do with it, to be honest, but I'm gonna have to fix this. Like, I can't just half-ass this. I'm gonna have to probably take it all down, get rid of whatever falls off, which I'm thinking will be quite a bit, and then kind of rebuild this one as well, just like I did with the rocker panel. All right, after using the rust stripper tool for my drill and also 60 grit piece of sandpaper on my sander, this is what I'm left with. There's still quite a bit of remnants of rust that I cannot remove any further, and I'm surprised on how much this really ate up this side of the vehicle. You know, there's quite a bit of spots here where there's just nothing left of the body. It's just gone. It's disintegrated entirely. All right, so what I'm going to use now is some rust converter just to get it one last time, and then I'm going to use some fiberglass to really fill in those damaged spots with that mesh pad that I had before. And you're probably wondering why I'm going through all the trouble of doing this. No one's ever going to see this. There's almost no point. And I kind of get why you may be thinking that, but it's more for structural integrity of the wheel arches, because unlike the front fenders where I could just take those off and replace those entirely, I can't do that back here. That's it. It's either that or I have to weld onto new metal, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go through the trouble now and actually fix it properly, despite the fact that it will never be seen. Alright, to save you guys some time, I've decided just to cut to where I am now, and that is finished with the fiberglass and Bondo. And as you can see, I've taped off everything, and now we're ready for paint. But I decided to change my mind, because before I was thinking, oh, maybe I just paint it like a flat black, because I'm going to be undercoating pretty much up to the side here anyways. But then I realized, you know what? I'm just going to use the paint that I bought for the car, so the actual paint color, and actually just use that and kind of blend it into the rest of the vehicle. All right, I got 2 coats of primer down. Now I'm going to give it a wet sand with 800 grit sandpaper. Then I'm going to apply 2 base coats, and then finally it will be the clear coat. All right, it's now been at least 24 hours since I painted the car, and now it's time to unwrap it and see what it looks like. Just when you think you're done sandblasting the vehicle, well, there's always one more spot that you miss or that you want to do. And in this case, it's actually on the rear liftgate, where you have this little hook on the vehicle that hooks into the liftgate. And to say it's rusted out is a bit of an understatement. Now, I'll be honest, I took a wire brush to this last year when I bought the vehicle just to clean it up, and then applied a little bit of oil to it just to make it look nice and everything. But unfortunately, the oil's worn off, not surprised, and now it's back to rust again. So I am going to use some glass bead blasting media to clean up this spot, and then I'm going to use some of the leftover 2K clear coat and spray it. Okay, the wiper arms are now done here to the point of where they're ready for paint. But before I do that, I'm actually going to apply a little bit of primer to the wiper arm, especially on this one here, the driver's side, because there is a bit of small pitting on the aluminum here. So I am going to use some self-etching primer here to apply there first, and then once that's dried, I'm going to give this a light scuff with a Scotch-Brite pad just to kind of help blend it in, and then I can apply the actual trim color. So I've let this dry for about 20 minutes, and on the can it says you can actually sand this in less than 15, so I think we're pretty good. I do have my sponge here, and I did actually dampen it a little bit because I don't really want to, scuff this up too much. So I'm going to go very lightly on this. Okay, the wiper arms are now ready for paint, but I was a bit torn as to what finish I wanted to use, because on the rest of the vehicle it appears to have sort of a satin kind of semi-gloss finish on a lot of the trim, and the wiper arms sort of have that same effect as well. However, I felt that I don't want the sun coming and blinding me off the wiper arms while I'm driving, so I actually decided to go with a flat black instead. I felt that was a bit more appropriate for what the wiper arms should be on a vehicle. So I'm actually going to use this instead, and it's actually a trim black flat, and it's by Dominion Sure Seal Limited. So I'm going to try it out and see how well it turns out. So another thing I want to do on this vehicle is actually clean up the drums here. This one I've already done the surface here with the blasting media. I've tried both baking soda and the glass beads, and it's done an okay job, but I feel like using a wire brush is more effective of the material and my time. Okay, this is how it's turning out so far. So you can see wire brush, no wire brush. Okay, done now with the wire brushing. So I also used some brake cleaner to clean off the drums, just to get rid of the excess brake dust and rust. And now I'm actually going to get ready to paint it. And what I've done in order to do that was actually tape off the inside where the drum meets the shoes. So that way, it won't actually make this useless when I go to put it back on. Because if I do get paint on the inside, then it is toast. So I did tape that off. And then I'm actually going to use some rust converter as well, just to get rid of that last bit of rust on the inside here, because I didn't want to, scuff this up, because I didn't want to, again, scuff the brake shoe area. So I'm going to use some rust converter, and then I'm going to actually paint it. Okay, rust is converted. As you can see, it's got this kind of purple color to it, but it's also kind of black in the other spots where rust would have been, so it's kind of neat. On the inside here, you can kind of see that's how it looks like as well. So I might actually hit the spot again. There was some that I did kind of miss up here near the top, so I might just put a little bit more rust converter there. But other than that, though, they're ready to paint. This is the paint I'm using for the drums. This is coat number 2. Alright, I flipped over the drums here and now I'm going to do the inside of them. With the painting now done on the vehicle, at least for the most part, there probably will be some spots that I'll need to touch up later on, but for the most part, it's all complete. So now it's the next part of this adventure, and that is undercoating. And what I'm going to start off with is actually undercoating the rocker panels, and I've already gone ahead and removed these little drain plugs right here, and these are about 6 on either side of the vehicle, so removed all those from the rocker panel, and then I'm going to use a tool that I had recently bought off of Amazon, and it's this little spray tool right here. And as you can see here, I have this little attachment here for the sprayer, which will come in handy for getting through the frame and actually applying some undercoating in there. So it may be a bit tricky to film some of this part, so I might just kind of show you a little bit without actually maybe using the sprayer, but I'll try and get the camera underneath the vehicle so that way you'll get a better idea of what it looks like. In case you're wondering what product I'm using for the undercoating on the Pathfinder, it's actually called Fluid Film Black, and I bought a 1-gallon can of it off of Amazon, and I've heard good things from people in the reviews that they've said about the product, so I'll try it out and see how well it works, and hopefully it will do a pretty good job of the undercoating. Alright, it's another day, and I finished off with the undercoating of the rear end of the vehicle, at least underneath the car. That's all done. So now I'm actually going to move on to the wheel arches, and this side here, which is on the left-hand side, so the driver's side of the vehicle in the rear. I'm actually going to do this one by hand, and I'll probably end up doing that one for the front as well, as there's lots of things in the way. Like, as example here, you have the fuel line right here, which doesn't need to be undercoated. That's perfectly fine. So I am going to do this one by hand. A little thing I picked up though along the way while working on this vehicle, especially underneath it and seeing the design of it, is that they didn't use a lot of undercoating, especially where you think they would have. And what I'm talking about is in the wheel arches here, is that they didn't use a lot of it. They only used it in the main part, but then when it got closer to the edge here, they didn't use pretty much any at all. It was actually just a hard line where it cuts off, and the rest of this metal was left to the elements. So of course that's why it rusted out over many years. But again, I am going to fix that, so hopefully it will never happen again. I don't know for a lot of you that are watching that actually like painting and doing this kind of thing, but actually I find it to be quite therapeutic. And I'm not going to spray this section, but I'm going to just use the brush here. Again, I'm just going to cover this layer of undercoating that's actually already here. I don't know why it is whenever I'm doing a project and midway through I realize, oh, I probably should remove that. And in this case I'm talking about the strut right here that's in the way of me getting in behind there to apply the fluid film. Now I am going to remove this, and not only am I removing it for this purpose, but in the future in probably the next video, I will be actually redoing the suspension, so I'm going to take it out now and save myself some time. By no means is this a tutorial, and nor have any of these other videos been really, but in case you are wanting to know how to take this off, there are a number of bolts and clips to take off on the strut. First of all, let's start off with the clip here that holds in the brake caliper, so I'm going to take that off. You may have noticed here I've actually taken off the brake caliper in the front and actually spray painted it black, just so that way it would at least look as nice as the rear drums. Now I can actually remove a lot of these clips that are holding in the strut before I even attempt taking off the actual bolts. It's broken free. And there we go. So that's one of them down. And I can see right here there is a 10 mil. Okay, that's free. On this side, opposite here to this, is a little grommet that I'm just going to take out. There we go. The only thing left attached from the vehicle to the strut is actually the end link right here, and that should be it. And funny enough, I actually replaced these end links last year and they've already started to corrode pretty bad. I'm surprised. Maybe the coating that they used wasn't that good. It appears to be just these two bolts here holding in the bottom. Alright, I think this side here is a 17. Yep. And this side here, it should be a 22. Okay, there we go. Alright, let's see how easy these are to break off. I'm sure they've never come off in their entire life, so should be interesting. Go. All right, everything's disconnected from the bottom. Now I just have to do the bolts up top. All right, there are 3 nuts holding in the top here, and those require a 14 mil socket. All right, 3 bolts removed. I actually just have the spring from the rear of the vehicle just holding this up, supporting it. Maybe it's not the best thing, but it's all I have. And now I'm going to take it out. Go. Now that I had easy access into the strut tower area, I was able to clean this up with some acetone and then put down some rust converter and then a couple coats of rust paint, and then now I can do the undercoating. Alright, I'm now done undercoating the vehicle, and it actually went pretty quick, to be honest. I thought it was going to take me a lot of time, and it actually went a lot quicker because I had, again, this tool here, and actually this spray wand especially came in handy to get into all those crevices, which is really hard to get a brush. So this saved me a lot of time, so I just recommend, if you're going to do this yourself at home, definitely invest in one of these tools. They're not very expensive. They're under $50, at least Canadian. And again, it makes the job go a lot quicker, and you'll know that you got a lot of those spots that you couldn't get by hand. Now, in terms of the undercoating itself, I'm hoping it will hold up during the winter months, and I'll definitely do a check-in next spring and see how well it's held up. And then I'll let you know as well, just in case if you're curious. And on that note, I'm going to end today's video here. I just want to say thank you very much for watching. And in the next video, I'm going to get into some of the reassembly process and then also some suspension work, which should be interesting. So stay tuned for that. And if you aren't subscribed now, be sure to do so that way you don't miss any more future videos like this one, and also car reviews on my channel. And until next time, take care. Bye now.